Hey guys, Jake Brown here for RotoCurve.com. What we're going to be doing in this video is going through the FanDuel and DraftKings lobbies and just doing a breakdown of the lobbies and the features and let you see what's going on Free Money Tuesdays. So give me a moment. Cool. All right, here we have FanDuel. Now, just quickly, like we did for the other sites, left is your sports tab, and this is a very, very new lobby that they were very proud of. You can hear the excitement in my voice, obviously. Again, try to get off of this featured tab on every single site. It's just a rake fest. It's just a contest that they want to get filled that usually rake the most, as I illustrated in the 50-50 or double up article. Tournaments make sense to search by. You can also search within tournaments. They have the tab just for satellites and qualifiers. Leagues or anything with a large variety of people, more than two. And here you can search by 3 separate categories, which is not too shabby. Head-to-heads obviously are just one-on-ones. And 50-50s and multipliers, and I should include N double ups, though. Again, double ups theoretically are a multiplier of 2. So they've done a little bit of nice work up here with the tabs. It's much better than having to check these things off in little boxes on the left. They also do the courtesy of showing you which, sports don't have any open games. So again, nice little slick lobby. Oh, what's this red stuff, you may be asking? So we can get into that because it's pretty much become status quo for people that are, most people in the Twitter community and to interact with daily fantasy sports in forums or on Twitter. This is a RotoGrinders extension. I believe that's what it's called, right? I'm going to go to settings, extensions. There, and find a link for it, even if it's not our product, because at the same time, if it's out there, you should probably have it. But they call it the FanDuel Matchup Finder and RotoGrinders Bankroll Tracker Results Export. Second half, which I do not use because they don't need to gain any more information off of my, my skills, so to speak. So we just kick it with that. And the idea of it is, in theory, as soon as you load a page, every user that has more than 1,000 wins in the sport you've selected will turn red. As you just saw, there were a couple that were red, and it took me moving my mouse. We all know Max Delary is red, but it takes me highlighting and hovering for a couple seconds. So let's go to NFL. And again, this is just for head-to-heads. Ideally, what it's doing is it's going to just make sniping and sitting in a lobby to steal people's games way too easy. Let me just get out in front. I'm not in favor of this tool existing at all. I'm also not in favor of playing at a disadvantage from everybody else. So if something exists like that, I'm going to use it. Where there's no human error I can make and no time I have to spend to learn it. It's just a tool that's in place that I can utilize like everyone else. Sure, I'm going to use it. I would sign every single petition to remove it entirely. But as you can see, pretty much you get to see how much free money there really is. If you're looking at $50, you don't have a single person available on FanDuel right now who doesn't have 1,000 wins in NFL. And again, I should mention that you can select by slate up here. I just have Sunday on right now. I could also do Thursday. Check Thursday, $50. Got some with 400 some wins, 500 some with 8. And ideally, this red would turn green if the person has less than 100 wins. So, yeah, we'll go down to a range where you can maybe find some green. But the idea that there's tons of prevalent easy money on FanDuel is a joke with the way they operate their head-to-heads in this lobby and the allowance of this. So again, we found one here. Oh, 39. So we'll take it. Sorry, Mr. Honda Racer, you're going to be utilized as an example. We're entering a dummy lineup now. Where FanDuel really drops the ball is right now it says max. It's done. Can't enter anymore. But all I really do is click the refresh button. And would you look at this? It's going to load up right on the same user. I don't even have to scroll. I can enter it again. And I've basically just taken both of his games. Sorry in advance if you really want me to PayPal you $4. I will, Mr. Racer. Just wanted to use you as an example of the rules and having this max 1 in place with the check mark is just fooling 90, the masses, so to speak, and those that are aware that it's crap can just, click refresh, or if they're better than me, they use the hotkeys to do it, and just continue to enter. And you saw how easy it was. No scrolling. It doesn't reload the whole page up to the top. It reloads exactly to the screen you were looking at, and you can just snipe all day like that. So the problem that I'm having is noticing how few. There's another problem, which I won't put my tinfoil hat on too much, but there are a lot of people who right away that have tons of wins, and you can scroll over someone like this, and you'll see, okay, that 409 switched to 1,005. I knew it was going to do that. Most people don't. So this tool isn't even created, perfectly in my eyes. There is definitely some eyebrow raising things. You'll notice down everybody, even Mr. Smart Water Poker, who was at 409, even he had a number in the parentheses, even though it wasn't the right number. If you look down, you'll only see one name on this entire page displaying right now that doesn't have a number associated with, and that would be a RotoGrinders employee. So that's kind of an issue I've been having, and I showed it on a video with Mike, and it's at 4,000. And Britt's a great player, but you're having some top players who not only don't switch over, like Mr. Smart Water Poker showing last week's number when really it should take into account what already happened and update, but they're not showing anything, basically showing 0 wins until you highlight them over. So it's raised my eyebrows. I'm keeping track of which players are loading less frequently and more frequently than others, certainly. And there are a lot of guys that just go red right away. But again, if you find someone who's green, and here, sometimes it doesn't even work. There you go, 221. It's very interesting to utilize this tool, but you can see that people are clearly using it to just scoop up, as there is not too much green available, and it feels bad having to do this. But again, I won't be a dick and take multiple, because I want this ecosystem to survive. I'll take one, but I would wager that his remaining 13 or 14 games will be scooped by 1 or 2 people, because that's just the dog-eat-dog world we live in, with it being so hard to find people. And I have no idea if Evan Silva's been on FanDuel before, but this is one of the top football commentators in the industry, so it's just hilarious to see him in all white, and sure enough pops up. But again, just Evan Silva, who's not necessarily a RotoGrinders employee, just Britt. Those are the only 2 that we've seen so far without a number attached to them whatsoever. So again, this is kind of what people do all day, and the scary thought, in my opinion, is that there are people who aren't having to do this. There are people who are able to edit this extension and script so that greens are automatically picked up. And if you have confidence, basically, that FanDuel wouldn't allow that to happen, I applaud you for being a positive thinker, and at the same time, I have to laugh at some of the naivety. Just because I've been around long enough to actually know the stories of cheating and people getting caught, and the way FanDuel responds to improper things isn't exactly what you'd expect. But again, if you think you're going to be able to post a game above a couple bucks and it not get, here we'll look at the 10 to 25 range. Look at reds. 8, 9. Oh, here's one. Look, hey guys, you got me a game on air. Free money Tuesday, right? And again, this is the time of day and the day of the week that I think the most dead money will pop up into the FanDuel and DraftKings lobbies. Payouts were last night, around 1 a.m. So you might have had people on the West Coast who are degenerates jumping back in. But for most people, it's when they wake up today or have that first break at work. Another thing I've noticed, if you're looking at the real degenerate buzz to push it, and people who are chasing losses and things like that, they're more likely to be playing the Thursday slate because their money's in play sooner. I know people like to think that Free Money Tuesday is about MLB, but I just think logically, after getting your dick punched in, like, sorry, but after you get beat up enough, like, you're not going to jump back into MLB. And if you're playing football, even if you're horrible at daily fantasy football, you still know the game, you still have an idea, you still feel like you're playing on more of a level field. Baseball, if you play a sharp and you're just someone who's just going to pick random players from teams that you think have good, are on hot streaks or have good BVP situations, you're just going to get torn up. And to think that people from last year who got torn up in MLB, who have money to play football, are going to make that same mistake again, I haven't seen it play out that way. I've seen a lot of new people posting, Tuesday Eastern time, 2 a.m. to 2 p.m. And then even after work, again, another rush from, I happen to take naps mid-afternoon, but another rush from like 5 to 7. So search through it. But again, that name popped up. If one of you on RotoCurve, I hope to learn your usernames. I don't want to take any money from our users, but if you were to enter anything in any one of these price ranges right now and you had less than 100 wins, you would be that green popping up. So on FanDuel, I don't see any point in posting games short of basically 1 minute before lock, so they're auto matched if you really want to do that. But you're gonna get scooped. It's just the way it's gonna go. And as you see, I'm doing it right now again. And just to prove my point, I'm not gonna take it. But this wasn't a gimmick. Refresh. Take me exactly to the same spot, right? Nope, it didn't that time. That's my bad. I scrolled. But here it is. As you see, I can take it again. Shows 1 win. I won't be a dick. And I'll switch over to Sunday. So yeah, I mean, and again, that's me policing myself like that. You've heard video logs from people saying they will take every single game like that, even down to the $1 range for reasons I don't necessarily think are genuine, but selfishness and greed take over, and it's harder and harder to win, and the edge is shrinking. So people see games and they just want to take them, and that's fine. To me, to see someone refreshing and taking all those games of one user, in the one sense, I like it because I think that it would put an emphasis on FanDuel to realize that their little one max isn't fooling anyone. But it is how it is. So this is kind of what I do for about 15 minutes, 2 or 3 times a day on Tuesdays. Just go through and try to get games. I don't bother trying to get anything below $5. For where my role is at on overall, I'll just throw in 25 head-to-heads posted on Sunday and let most of them get auto-matched. And on Sunday, most of the sharps aren't scooping anyway because they're operating on a bunch of different sites and following late-breaking news. But that's basically how the extension works. If you haven't seen anybody talk about it, and again, I think it's a horribly unhealthy thing for daily fantasy, but for new users, you need to be aware that this is the lens through which people are sniping your games. And the entry limits of 1, you're wondering how someone ends up with multiple. It's because FanDuel really hasn't done anything short of put a symbol that means nothing, to be quite frank. So that's the FanDuel lobby. There aren't really any other tools you can utilize, which is something that is kind of neat about the DraftKings lobby. Though I do have to say, doing leagues like this where you have a drop down again below it, but you're only looking at leagues to begin with, this vertical, I should say this horizontal style, but on the top of the screen is much better than vertical on the left side, going all the way down and having to scroll with checkboxes. So I do like the update, but would really, really like them to take a stance on this stupid and very unfair extension. Switch over to my favorite daily fantasy site. And yeah, I mean, you might be laughing because I believe my pin right now is jabbing them a little bit for scripting, and I'm critical of them all the time. But remember that being critical is just because, in general, I care about this industry and I care about you guys more so than any other players in it, the newer players, the people trying to get started, the people that in the next year may find that this is something they want to try to do professionally or semi-professionally, and that growth. And I think that got some stale air in daily fantasy, and it's nice to see growth. So with that in mind, DraftKings is my favorite site. So, all of those critiques are with the hopes that things change for the better. First thing I want to show you, because I cannot believe how many people are not aware of this, would be to go here and, sorry, no boastful stuff. My balance isn't all kept on site or anything like that. There's just no way to eliminate it and minimize, which is something I've asked for. Click on preferences. Once you go through, drop down preferences. And I've included some names of friends. These aren't people I would usually have. But when you hear that you can block someone, this is what they're talking about. You can literally, and we'll do this right now for you, type in any user you want and block them. What this means is that for the entirety that they are blocked, which, now until the end of time, unless you change it, they will never be able to take your head-to-head challenges. They also won't be auto-matched with your head-to-head challenges. So you have 0 chance of seeing them in any fields outside of 50-50s and double-ups and tournaments, which for a lot of people would solve so many of their problems. I hear a lot of new users saying, so-and-so keeps taking my games, both on FanDuel and DraftKings. even if it is just one game at each price level, there are enough sharps in this industry that's big that if you're posting at a level like of 10 bucks or more that's going to get interest, you may be just sniped up by a bunch of different people. If there's someone that you're intimidated by, or you feel is a better player than yourself, or for whatever other reason you just do not want to play them, you can type in their name here. And I don't believe, yeah, I was going to say, I don't believe search. So if you're, I'm just using Max Delory as an example. I don't believe search for actually works, but we'll see. Oh, Max D has been blocked. That might be a user. So yeah, search doesn't work. But if you find the user's name, you can block them. So, now Max theoretically would be unable to ever scoop my head-to-head games. If you're, you can, not that these are the people I would ever choose to block, but you can throw in your traditional names. You can throw in your Condias of the world. Yeah, and then we'll throw in Benny because he's a boss, and I don't want to get auto-matched with him. But again, you can use this tool to pick 3 names that can never play you. And essentially what that means is there are 3 names you can never complain about again. And that's great because for a lot of people, there are just a handful of users they don't want to see themselves matched up with. Sure, I would love if this expanded to 5 or 10, but it would negatively affect myself in sports that I run hotter in at times. So it's just a very unique and I think nice way to deal with newer players trying to get a foothold and avoiding situations they don't want to be in. Also down here, if you want to have your game results, tracked by RotoGrinders and be somewhat arbitrary, not arbitrary, ranked as best as the industry can provide at the moment, click there, you'll be tracked. You can keep track of your tickets through preferences, but again, you can also do that up here. Other thing to be aware of, let's see, is let's see where that number comes. I believe it's my account. Yeah, you'll see your frequent player points, your FPPs. But I didn't ever think I'd be doing a video where I'd go to the store, so to speak. But as you see, you can turn in your FPPs for cash. So 11,100 gets you $20, a $20 ticket. So 11,100, $20 ticket. If you were to, let's go back for a second. No, it's not taking me to the VIP store, which is anything but VIP. Don't buy it. It's absurd, some of the things in here. But again, the pricing isn't horrible on some of these items. If you are someone who likes to spend your money, just to me, you spent so much money to get this to drip in so very slowly that if for 11,000 I can get a $20 contest ticket, or a snapback hat. Well, obviously never buy a snapback hat. You do that, you're dead to me. But a flex fit hat or a baseball shirt, sure, it's nice, and they're not really pricing you out or doing anything absurd. But I would just rather have $20 because of the drip than pay for DraftKings merchandise. I'm not someone who will wear a company's name on my chest unless they're paying me or giving it to me. So I just think that there are some. It's not horrible. You can actually, after a while of playing, as you see, I can, after a couple weeks of football, I can play $50 for free. So that's what I'll choose to do. But don't forget about that in your account, on your FPPs. But now let's go to the lobby. They've also renovated their lobby recently. All the sports are up top, as you're aware of. And if you select the sport, you can then select the exact slate or all slates, which is nice. On the left, you can select your price range. Every single individual one exists. Selfishly, I like this more than the sliding because it's easier to change the left or the right. As you've noticed, I've struggled with that in the previous video. And you can sort by format. Your tournaments and leagues are together, which is it is whatever, but you can also select guaranteed down here so that you can just get rid of all the leagues that will not fill. 50-50s, again, are with double ups. Multipliers, for their purposes, are triple ups and bigger, non-double ups, satellites and qualifiers. Another nice thing you can do is you can, well, in this case I haven't, but you can click on entered contests, and all of the contests you've entered will pop up. So then you can theoretically enter them again from one screen and just multi-enter if need be. And then anything you have that's free with a ticket, obviously I don't have any tickets, or they would pop up. But I love that they've added these two things. It makes keeping track of just of everything a lot easier when you can click entered and see kind of how you've allocated your gameplay for the day, and so you never again have a ticket that goes unused. Two nice things that they've added. Again, featured. I don't mess with featured. Basically, because if you select any other menu, the featured tournaments are still going to be put right at the top, shoved in your face, and ranked worse than almost everything else. So, again, you can go there if you want. That's playing right into the site's hands. Be a little bit more savvy and search for what you want. For looking at head-to-heads, this is something that's entirely new. So let's select a slate, let's say Thursdays or Sunday slate. Used to be that you would see every single user's name here with the amount of games they have available, starting at $1,000 and $500 and so on. So if you were to select 10 to 30, which will cover 10 and 20s, you would have seen 1,035 available contests. So those would have been basically in this format with username here, amount of entries here, entry fee here. And again, as a result of being able to create contests the way you can only take one per user. But they've decided that they want a more, I guess, efficient way of shooting fish in a barrel, because that's what it is. Now, you basically click on the dollar range you want. And I'm going to take a little bit of time because of how competitive this is to just snipe while I'm talking. But basically what you're looking for is you're looking for people like Mr. Nanny who don't have a dollar range next to their name. Or sorry, an X with a number next to their name, meaning that they've only put in one. And this, and some of them you may recognize. Draft Cheat is a smart guy. He and Dean, they sometimes post their games one at a time. Brit Divine does the same. And it's not always bad players. This guy, I've taken like 2 or 3 of his already. He posts one at a time. I'm not familiar with him. Something you can do is to search these users up on RotoGrinders, but not as a fault to them, but less and less percentage of these new users are on RotoGrinders as a result of so many more of them being acquired through the television set. So, I won't take his again just in case, but and they don't disappear right away, but if you try to join it, your entry will fail. There's no more. So it takes a minute to update, which can make it frustrating at times when you jump in, which is why I entered and joined before talking to you guys directly, because if you sit here, it might be, oh, that's available, and then you click on it. Oh, no, it's not. It's been sniped right out from under you. So they don't disappear right away. As soon as you get in, just start the click fest, have dummy lineup set up. Looking at $20. That's another one. So, got $40 of, I won't say noob because I don't want to, these people could be quality players. Hell, they could be a couple of you guys. But the fact is that was less than 2 minutes to get $40 worth of action. And obviously, you may want to be, $40 worth of action. Now we're looking at $90 worth of action. King Dan has a bunch of, and he posts like that too. I'm not really sure who he is, but he posts 209s. So I'm not sniping too much, but I just wanted to try to see how quickly I could get $100 of action in like 5 to 50 range. I believe we're at 90, so let's see if we can't snipe 2 5s. No, it looks like our luck for this slate has run out for the next 5 minutes until we refresh and possibly find some more, or get impatient, switch over to Thursday's slate, see if there's some more degeneracy going on. No, doesn't look like it at this moment. And again, it's 11:30. I already did a lot of sniping earlier this morning, but just wanted to show you how the lobbies function now. If you really want to get dirty from here, this will just be for fantasy salary, so you can yell at me. But I'll say it's instructional for selecting other people's $1 games instead of posting, because some of you may be out there looking to do this. And again, there may not be any zeros at $1. It's going to be harder to find zeros because people don't just have $1 in their account. They may have 2 and want to do it like this. So again, it's just being familiar with how quickly you can just switch from slate to slate. Because of the way it's formatted now, I usually leave the price range from 1 all the way to 1,000 because there is no scrolling to be done. I mean, scrolling to 5,000 or 10.6, but I'm not doing that. So everything is available right now. the ranging on head-to-heads doesn't matter so much because you can select it. And I like having this screen somewhat memorized in that, again, it's each person's different. I have a little bit of an eidetic memory. So what I do is I memorize these numbers, 696, 368, 226. Then I'll go over and I'll have Netflix up, and I'll pop back over in 2 minutes. If any of these numbers has changed, raised or lowered, I click, because for all I know, if it's lowered by 3, it could mean 4 of someone's lineups were taken and 1 more was added, but something has changed. So that's kind of a small little strategy I use, but really just kind of going through these and looking. Here's a 109, looking for people that have won. Yeah, I don't think it's a new person, and again, not trying to say anything by the people I'm selecting. Again, if I play another top person, if I play a top person in the world, we might just lose to the rake. So it's not the end of the world if I select them once or twice. And I'm willing to take that chance if people have just posted once and I'm not aware that they are a bigger player, so to speak. But I believe, that's 2109, so that'll skew everything. But there's like $300 about we've picked up in not dead money, but easier than professional money in head-to-heads. I look to pick up 5 to 6 times that on DraftKings this week, and we've already accomplished 20% of my game poaching in less than like 10 minutes. So this lobby, like I said, I use the phrase shooting fish in a barrel, but that's really how I feel about it. They make it exceedingly easy for you if you have the time, which is something that is one of the edges I have versus a lot of people. To go through these lobbies, they make it very easy. And once you've selected the person who you take, as you see, there was a button just to go back to the screen rather than having to X out. And again, nothing too crazy going on at the moment. I think I missed that this morning. I try to set my alarm, and maybe this is just a me thing, but I try to set my alarm for about 9 a.m. to do this on Tuesdays. And I did a little bit earlier. I just wasn't awake enough to do this video. But this is what the new head-to-head looks like. I'm spending way too much time just continually showing you the same things. But that's how it works. There is no fancy tool for sniping like on FanDuel. DraftKings does allow scripting. I believe they don't allow scripting for head-to-heads, I think, and 50-50s, or what they called cash games. So not that I think it matters, so to speak. It's more if there was an interactive tool to be able to identify and scoop people. But I believe actually this layered system would make that exceedingly impossible, aside from the fact that DraftKings has said, on record, that is the one thing we don't allow basically from scripts. We're vague with what we do allow, but that is one thing we don't. So play with a little bit of confidence here. Again, no need to really post games if you can find games. It's common sense. If you do not have the time to find games, it then becomes a little bit of a challenge. If you're someone who works a lot of the time and you really want to get head-to-head action, but you're tired of just being in situations where if you played your opponent often enough, you think you would just be losing to the rake or losing to your opponent because they're, of a certain quality. If that's the case on a site like DraftKings, being that I would assume many of the top players are approaching it in terms of scooping the way I am, make sure to post multiple games. What do I mean by that? I mean multiple games in one price level. As you see, people who have posted 5 or 4, I'm not really even considering. So you can kind of do that, and that'll scare off, or rather just off-put people to the idea of selecting you as an easy target. The other thing people do is they do search your RotoGrinders username. So if you are someone that doesn't look like you really do much on there, having your name tracked is something you have to decide. I mean, the fact is, if you have your usernames tracked for a ranking system, you are not utilizing every edge you have, because it would be best for someone like myself, for no one out there to know that I'm pretty good at a couple sports out there. Now that information is that's the little bit of ego that everyone plays with who's on there, is that you're giving up that small bit of edge. So one thing I've suggested to newer players, again, it's at the expense of this ego, and the rankings are great and all, but for a lot of people, if you have multiple games posted, let's say five or more, and you're not on RotoGrinders, it's harder to make assumptions about you as an opponent. If you have one game posted, I'm almost always taking it unless I recognize. If you beat me a couple times, I may look you up on RotoGrinders. But again, I'm not really making the effort to look up people who have 5 or 10, even if I don't recognize them. So I'm just logically and honestly telling you my thought process when I go through this lobby so that you can avoid being the target of kind of higher volume cash players looking for newer and easier money. Yeah, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions or things you'd like to know more about any of the lobbies or about any of these sites, if you have site-specific questions that aren't about players but are about kind of lobby strategy, game selection strategy, things like that, feel free to hit me up on Twitter or the forums. And I will, again, I keep saying that I'll try to do a better job in the forums. I think I have to get notifications to my phone, but I'm very available on Twitter, and I will follow you so we can direct message and talk a bit. But till that time, best of luck and keep them mustaches sharp.